Descending Mount Tamalpais is one of the most incredible experiences I've had on a bike, and I want to share with you why this is such a special and iconic route. So I was in San Francisco and I had a few extra days to check out the local area. I heard that this mountain was really important in the history of mountain biking. I was lucky to have such a clear and beautiful spring day, and I took an Uber from San Francisco up to Mill Valley, a city that's about 15 miles north of San Francisco, over the Golden Gate Bridge. I hired a bike from a shop called Bikes, which is very well located for this ride. There's a small amount of road riding, and then you go up this wide fire road called Old Railroad Grade. And the start of this video starts at the very top of Old Railroad Grade. So it's called that because it apparently used to be a scenic tourist railway track from 1896 to 1930, with a roughly 6% incline or grade the entire way. It was billed as the crookedest railroad in the world, renowned for its serpentine, snaking route that was chiseled into the hillside by a team of 200 international labourers. And it also had the so-called gravity cars that took you down the mountainside. That was in a very thrilling way. And unfortunately, a fire and then the rise of the automobile were what led to it closing down in 1930, because now anyone with a car could drive up themselves. I think it's pretty cool that you can experience kind of somewhat what it's like to get one of those gravity cars down with a mountain bike, and of course the 6% grade both up and down make it much more accessible than many other mountains. And beyond that, it just has absolutely beautiful scenery and several different kind of microclimates as you move through. So as you go up Old Railroad Grade, you go through these beautiful redwood forests and glades, really peaceful, and you get these increasingly incredible views over the Bay Area. And I kept going up and like stopping and getting my camera out to take pictures, but then I would go even higher, and then the views got even better, and I was like, so it's just like you see the San Francisco far in the distance, basically the size of your hand, or even smaller, and you get this view over the Pacific Ocean, the Marin headlands landscape. It's just gorgeous on a clear day. So Mount Tamalpais is apparently a word in coastal Miwok, which is a now extinct American language, and it's about 2,500 feet in elevation, and has come from the uplift and buckling of the North American tectonic plate against the Pacific plate, quite near the San Andreas fault zone. It took me about an hour and a half to climb up Old Railroad Grade, but probably more like 2 hours, 2.5 hours when you factor in breaks. And at this point, we're above this place called West Point Inn, where you can stay. At the top, at the start of the video, I was at a point where you can fork either to the middle peak or the east peak. The east peak is the highest point of Mount Tamalpais, but you can't ride all the way to the top. You can only hike up to the top, and I didn't want to leave my bike unattended. You can go to the middle peak as well, and I actually got in trouble on the middle peak because there is some kind of station. It looks like a military site that's been repurposed to a telecommunications relay station. But I wasn't thinking at the time, and I just sort of walked into it. The gate was open, and these two men came out and told me I could get arrested if I walked any further. So I quickly turned back. I think I just naively thought it was like some kind of visitor center or lookout point. But yeah, there was really good views from the middle peak over the other side of the mountain, so it's worth checking out as well. So we just passed the West Point Inn, where you can stay, and we've now come off Old Railroad Grade. We're now on Old Stage Road down the other side of the mountain. So now's a good point to talk about the history of mountain biking. So obviously, I'm on a very modern bike now. I think it was a specialized Epic, but I think a gravel bike would also, a wider tire gravel bike would handle this just fine as well, and some people even make it a bit of a rite of passage or a masochistic thing to ride down on even skinnier tyres. I do almost slide out at one point here, even though I am taking this descent quite carefully as I'm not familiar with it. So, you know, these loose stones here can be treacherous. You have to be careful when you lean your bike around the turns. But, yeah, back in the 70s and 80s, well, I guess early 70s maybe, there were a group of teenagers in the area, apparently. And they were trying to figure out how to ride down these roads. And they eventually found that these cheap, old, heavy cruiser bicycles that you could pick up in garage sales and junkyards, you know, these bikes from the 30s and the 40s, were actually ideal for riding down fire roads that would knacker your typical road bike. So bikes like the Schwinn Excelsior were apparently the most popular types of bikes in America in the 30s to the 50s. And they were these really, really heavy, like 25 kilo steel frame bikes that were actually remarkably resilient. And they had pretty good geometry as well, with quite a slack head angle and fat tyres, like 26 times up to 2-inch tyres, but don't quote me on that. And great thing about them being cheap was that you could bomb them down a hill, and even if the bike broke, you just pick up another one. And these guys started racing them down the hills and started modifying them. So Gary Fisher, who was one of the fastest racers, added a rear derailleur to one of these old single speed bikes so that he could also climb up the hills, not just bomb down them. And although it wasn't Mount Tamalpais, there was another mountain nearby there is another mountain nearby called Pine Mountain, which gave birth to this famous repack race, which was, I think, an even steeper fire road, which was the site of the most famous race. And it was called that because the old rubbish coaster brakes that these bikes had would... Ooh, I almost slide out at that point there, steering too steeply. And the brakes would burn up on the descent, or they would have to be repacked with grease. And these races were supposedly what popularized mountain biking on TV, and really led to the mass market appeal of these bikes, as the guys who were involved started setting up their own brands. Specialized brought out their stump jumper in 1981. Apparently traditional bike companies suspected that mountain biking would be a fad, so they didn't really get involved in it, but obviously now Specialized is one of the biggest bike companies, one of the top 3. Gary Fisher sold to Trek and did very well out of it. So yeah, this was where it all started, really. People racing down these fire roads and figuring out how to do it more quickly, more comfortably, and it was based off the old cruisers. I can see why mountain biking and gravel biking is so popular in the US as well. I tried road riding and didn't enjoy it so much. People drive really big cars really quickly. Didn't feel particularly safe, but out here you have incredible off-road trails, so that would definitely be my preference. We are on our way down this old stage road, and eventually we're going to get to a crossing with a road called Panoramic Highway, which is the popular road riding route in the area. And then we have a chance to refill our water. And in retrospect, later on in this ride, I really wished I'd refilled it. At the time, I you know, you're in the shade a lot here, and I felt fine. But you're soon out in the open. You emerge out into the Marin headlands, which is very exposed. And I ran out of food and water, and you know, really wished that I'd taken the opportunity to grab some more when I could have done. So yeah, that water refill is just after the crossing at a place called the Pantol campsite. Yeah, so the after you've finished this, there's a few options about how you wrap around and get back to Mill Valley. The most popular one is to use this single track called the Coast View Trail. It's one of the only pieces of single track that you can ride in the area, and it's really good, but unfortunately seems to be in a bit of a poor state when I was there. It's very rutted in a lot of sections, so I wasn't able to pick up the flow which I could have done if there was not so many ruts. And I was actually warned by one of my ex-colleagues who rides around here, that he's crashed a few times, so you have to be careful on that single track. I don't think I'll have enough things to talk about, so probably we'll cut that off the end of the video. But yeah, that's the most popular way to get back. And then once you finish that Coast View Trail, you have a few ways to climb back. There's this climb called the Diaz Ridge, I think, which is probably the easiest one. I went up this one called Green Gulch that went through this farm that was pretty good. You could also extend it further around Marin Headlands, but to be honest, although it's all amazing riding, it's after you've done this climb and this descent up Mount Tam, that's going to be the centerpiece. That's the highlight of the ride. And surprisingly, because the climb back is so steep, it actually even though it's a lot less elevation, it felt harder than me than for me than the Mount Tam climb up Old Railroad graded. So this is where the water tap is, just here on the left. We're now going through Deer Park Fire Road, which is going through this Muir Woods National Monument, and this is just gorgeous. For me, when I think of idyllic California, this is what I picture. I know for some people it would be the beaches and surfing, or maybe even some parts of the city life, Los Angeles. But for me, it's these climbing redwood trees, these beautiful forests, bright sunlight. Yeah, I'm in biking heaven at this point. So this is an area that I'd love to check out. Loads of hiking trails around. I'll definitely come back here in future. And yeah, you go through this part, and then you suddenly break out into open headlands with the ocean stretching out into the horizon, and then you have this single track snaking down ahead of you, and all of this, combined together is what makes this such an iconic and special ride in my experience. The fact that you can go up 2,500 feet, down 2,500 feet, all on a relatively gentle and accessible grade without too many interruptions or stoppages, with such amazing views, with such big changes. Yeah, here we go. It's just, what a stunning ride. So thank you very much for listening, and if I haven't convinced you already, hope you can get the chance to go out and ride this.